Hello, everybody. Today, my partner Kendall and me going to talk about web workers. We're going to explain why these tools is a crucial for optimizing web application and ensuring user experience. Well, in the agenda, we will cover what is a web worker, characteristics and cases of use, advantages and disadvantages, types of web workers, and finally, the examples.
What is web worker? Web workers are an API that allow JavaScript code to run in separate execution threads from the main application thread. This means that intensive processes tasks can be performed without blocking the user interface. Their purpose is to improve web application performance by allowing the main thread to continue responding to user interaction while the worker handles background tasks.
Characteristics. First, execution in a separate thread. When we execute JavaScript code, everything normally runs on a single main thread. This means that if a task takes too long, such as performing complex calculation or processing large amount of data, the user interface might freeze until the task is completed. The web worker solves this problem by running tasks in a separate thread, independent of the main one. This allows the main JavaScript thread to continue responding to user interaction without interruptions. While the worker handles heavy processing in the background, the interface remains smooth and responsive, providing a better user experience. Second, communication. Web workers communicated with the main thread using the post message method and the on message event handler. Post message, this method is used by the main thread or the worker to send data to the other. When a message is sent, the data is serialized and passed between threads. This means you can send simple data types like a string, number, or objects between them. And on message, on the receiving side, the on message event handler listens for incoming messages. When a message is received, the handler processes the data. Both the main thread and the worker can use this to handle the data sent via post message method. Cases of use. We can make graphics, real-time data analysis, dynamic content generation, and intensive calculations. Advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. First, avoid UI crashes. They prevent the user interface from freezing by executing resource-intensive tasks in the background, ensuring that the application remains responsive and smooth for the user. This approach allows the main thread to stay free to handle user interaction without interruption. Second, more than one thread can be run. Web workers allow running several threads concurrently, improving performance by distributing tasks without blocking the main thread. Third, they can handle heavy calculations. It allows them to run in the background without affecting the performance of the user interface. Fourth, can import steps. They can import steps using the line import script, the name script, which makes code organization easier. Disadvantages. First, they don't have access to the DOM. Since web workers run in a separate thread, they don't have access to the main thread's DOM, meaning they can't directly update the user interface. However, they can send data back to the main thread, which can then update the UI accordingly. Second, run from a server on localhost. It cannot be run independently as an HTML file in the browser. Third, must be stopped manually. Once the worker's task is completed, it must be terminated using the worker.terminated command. Fourth, resource consumption. Creating multiple workers at the same time can increase memory and system resource usage. This highlights the potential performance impact of using several web workers concurrently.
Dedicated workers. Okay, dedicated workers are tied to a single page or thread. They are ideal for handling backgrounds tags specific to that page, without the need to share the worker between other tabs or script. This makes them perfect for situations where you want to offload intensive processes, but only for the current page, ensuring better performance and resource management within that scope. Shared workers. Shared workers can be used by multiple page or tabs within the same origin. They allow sharing resources across different instances, which help reduce the load and memory consumption. This makes them ideal for scenarios where several parts of an application or even different page need to access and process the same data without duplicating work.
Well, in this example is the calculation of the Fibonacci number. But this example is without the using web worker. So, as we can see, the red box is going up and down. This will show us that when the calculation of the Fibonacci number starts, everything will stop because everything is the same main thread. Therefore, no other actions can be done, such as underlining or pressing anything. Once the calculation is finished, you can see how the red box makes the movement again, and the actions that have been tried to be done will be shown.
Well, now I'm going to explain how to create and implement a web portal in your project. Okay, in this case, I create this web page. This web page receives a number, and when the user press the start task button, the worker starts the processing to return the Fibonacci sequences of the number entered by the user. The structure of my project is as follows. First, index HTML. This is my main view of my website. Then functions.js. This file contains my main thread logic. And finally, worker.js. This is my secondary thread, where the Fibonacci method is executed to return a response. Okay, I'm going to explain my index HTML. It is a basic page that only includes a title to inform the user that this is example using a web worker in this part. And it also have an input file to receive a number, um, a button to start the processing, and a space to display message to the user. And finally, it calls the main thread using this script. Okay, now we're going to see functions.js. This is my main thread, responsible for handling communication between the worker and my main page. Okay, first, we need to check if the browser support the web workers with these conditions. Then we need to create an instance of a worker. The next step is we need to add an event listener to the start button where we retrieve the value from the number input file and validate that it is between 1 and 50. And we display in this part we display a message to inform the user that the process has started. Then we send the number to the worker using the post message method. And finally, once the worker completes the process, it returns the result through, through the post message function, which then display the data on the page. Now, I'm going to explain how the worker function. Okay, the Fibonacci functions calculate the Fibonacci number using the number that the user sent. Then the worker listens the message with self-taught on message, and when it receives a number, it computes the Fibonacci values. And finally, once the calculation is done, the worker sends the result back to the main thread using self.post message method. Okay, and finally, now that I've shown the code and explained it, let's see my website working. We can see that we can continue interacting with the web page because while the process is running in the worker, the red square keeps moving. Okay, and this is how web workers work. Thank you for your attention.